You wake with grit between your teeth, and you do not know what hour it is. The rag your mother tied over your face has gone dry. You can feel where it's stiffened along the edge, and you can feel the fine sand that worked through it and settled on your tongue. And you roll it against your back teeth the way a man worries a splinter. The room is black. You hold your hand up over your face, and there is nothing there. No shape, no gray, no outline of your own fingers 6 inches from your eyes. 4 other people are breathing in this room, and you know where every one of them is by sound. Your mother nearest the door, awake, though she has not moved in a long while. Your father on the floor by the stove pipe hole, Junie curled at the foot of the bed. Your grandmother in the corner, with the quilts around her, where she coughs and stops and coughs again. Outside the wall by your head, there is a sound with no direction in it. Not wind exactly. A low, steady hum coming from the north and the south, and the ground and the roof all at once. And it has gone on so long that you quit hearing it hours ago and started living inside it. You cannot tell whether it is still night out there. The sun may have come up hours ago and never made it through. It is the 14th of April, 1935. You are 17 years old. This is your own bed, in your own house, on your father's land in the Oklahoma Panhandle. Lee still. The night is long, and we have all of it. You have your clothes on. Everybody does. Shirt, trousers, socks, and your boots set upright against the wall where your foot can find them. Nobody in this house undressed tonight, and nobody said a word about why. The blanket has weight in it that it did not have this morning. You can feel it across your chest. Heavier than wool has any business being. And when you shift your leg, the whole thing settles in a way that has nothing to do with cloth. Dust has been coming down on this bed since the lamp went out. It falls so fine and so slow that you cannot hear it land. You know it by the weight. And by the way, the blanket has gone rough, where it used to be soft, like a sheet dried on a fence in a hard wind. Your grandmother coughs. It is not the cough she has had all winter. That one was quick and dry and over with. This one goes down deeper and stays there. And in the middle of it, there is a catch. A place where it stops and waits before it starts up again. And the second half is worse than the first. Everybody in this room comes awake for it. You know that from the sound. Your mother's breathing changes. Your father stops moving on the floor. Junie makes one small noise and goes still. Not one of them sits up. Nobody lights anything. 5 people lie in the dark and listen to an old woman finish coughing. And then all 5 go back to pretending. And the pretending is a kindness that everyone in the room agrees on without ever having discussed it. Junie whispers to ask if it is morning. Your mother reaches over in the dark and puts a hand on the girl's ankle and leaves it there. And after a while, Junie's breathing goes long again. The clock is still running on the shelf by the door. You can hear it under the hum if you go looking for it. It has kept perfect time all night, faithful as a mule, on a night when the time is no use to anybody. And not one person in this house has said out loud what hour it thinks it is. There is a reason for that. If it says 4 in the morning, then morning is close, and this has an end on it. If it says 4 in the afternoon, then this is not night at all, and the sun is up there right now on the other side of it, and it cannot get down to you. Nobody wants to be the one who checks. You swallow, and your throat catches part way, and it surprises you every time. There is water in this house. It is in the crock on the kitchen table with a plate weighted on top of it. And your mother settled hours ago exactly how much goes where. And getting to it would mean walking through the dark past your grandmother's chair. You are not going to do that. So you lie there and work the rag around with your tongue and do the arithmetic a body does at this hour. How long the wind has been going? How long a person can breathe like this? Whether the door will open in the morning? Your father shifts on the floor. He is not asleep either. You can tell by the way he moves. Careful. The way a man moves when he is trying not to wake anybody, then his voice comes across the room. Low, hardly more than a breath. And it is not aimed at you. He says it to the ceiling, blowing itself out. Your mother lets that sit. He tries again, a minute later. Quieter, bound to, outside. The hum does not change. And after a while, the house goes back to holding what it can hold. You put your hand flat on the blanket and feel the grit come up under your palm. This morning, every window in this house stood open. All of them, wide and propped, with the curtains blowing straight out into the yard. For the first time in 5 weeks, the 14th of April comes up warm and clean and quiet, and it is the prettiest morning anybody on this place has seen since the middle of March. You know it before you open your eyes, because the light is wrong. It comes through the east window in a hard yellow bar with edges on it, and lands on the floorboards and lies there sharp as a knife blade. For 5 weeks, the light in this room has come through like water through a dirty rag. Brown and soft and shapeless. This morning it has edges again. You get up and go to the window, and you can see the Pruitt place 4 miles north, not the smoke off it. The buildings, the white of the barn, and the shape of the windmill, and the road running up toward it. 4 miles of Cimarron County laid out plain. Every fence post and every rise, all the way to where the ground goes over and the sky comes down. Past that there is a little silver flash that is the water tank at the section corner. You have not been able to see the Pruitt barn since the 2nd week of March. The air coming through the gap at the bottom of the sash is cool and smells like nothing at all. By the time you get to the kitchen, your mother has already started. And what she has started is opening the house. She goes at it with her sleeves pushed up. Every window in the kitchen goes up and gets propped. Then the 2 in the front room, she sends you up the ladder for the little one under the peak that has not been touched since last fall and has swelled shut. And you have to hit the frame with the heel of your hand 3 times before it gives. She peels the strips of gummed paper off the sashes where the caulk went hard over the winter and drops them in the stove. She takes down the bedsheet that has hung over the kitchen window on a rod since the 3rd of the month, and it is stiff and brown across the bottom third where it has been catching what came through. And she wads it up and carries it out to the washpot. Then she stands in the middle of her own kitchen with her hands on her hips and lets the wind go through it. Your mother's name is Ada. She is 38 years old, born in Kansas, and she has kept house on this quarter section for 18 years. She does not say much about weather one way or the other. She keeps that kitchen window bare all morning, and every so often she stops what she is doing and turns her face toward it. Outside, the whole yard is at work in the sun. The bedding goes out on the line by 7. Every quilt in the house. You and she carry them 2 at a time and hang them. And there are 11 of them when she is done. And they hang heavy and still with the sun on them. And the yard smells like hot cotton and wool. She goes down the line with the wire beater and works each one over. The dust comes out in flat brown puffs that hang a second and drift off south. And she keeps at it long after you would have quit. Your father brings your grandmother out to the porch and sets her in the cane chair with a quilt across her knees. Her name is Ross, Mrs. Ross, to everybody in the county. Mother to your mother. Grandma to you and Junie. She is 71. She came into this country in the fall of 1897 with her husband and a wagon. And there was grass here then. And she has told you about it maybe twice in your life. Because she is not a woman who tells things. She sits on that porch for 2 hours. She does not read, and she does not knit, and she does not talk. She sits with her hands on the arms of the chair and her chin up a little. And she breathes. Every so often she takes one breath all the way down, the kind that fills a person out, and lets it go slow. And you can watch her whole chest work. You catch her at it from across the yard while you are carrying water, and she catches you catching her. And neither one of you looks away, and neither one of you says a word about it. Junie is out at the chicken house doing the count. She is 9. And counting is her whole system for handling the world. She counts the eggs and the hens and the fence posts on the walk out to the road and how many bites are left on her plate. This morning she comes across the yard at a dead run with her skirt held up in front of her like a basket, hollering the number before she is halfway. 11, she says. 11. And there was 9 yesterday and 8 the day before that. She lays them out on the kitchen table in a row so everybody can see. And she will not let your mother put a single one in the crock until your father has come in and looked at them. He looks at them and tells her, that is a fine count. Junie stands there beside them, with her hands behind her back like a girl at a fair. You spend the middle of the morning at the pump. The windmill is turning slow in a breeze that is barely a breeze. And the tank is low enough that you work the hand pump too. You fill the stock tank. Then the 2 buckets for the house. Then the crock. The handle of that pump is worn smooth in one particular place from your hand and your father's hand and 18 years of both. You can feel the water coming up through the pipe before it shows. It runs out cold and clear into the bucket. And you stand there and watch it run a good while after you need to. Your father is on the step with his church hat. He has it upside down on his knee, and he is going around the crown with a brush, working the dust out of the felt where it collects along the band. Wes Vance is 42 years old. He broke this ground when he was 24 with a lister and a team. And there is a photograph in the front room of him standing next to that team. And in it, he is grinning like a man who has won something. He gets the hat clean. He turns it around twice. Then he says, without looking up, that he figures they will stay home this Sunday. Your mother comes to the door and says, gasoline. He says gasoline. And that is the end of the conversation. Church is 7 miles into Boise City and 7 miles back, and there is a can and a half in the shed, and no money coming in until the note is settled one way or the other. Everybody in this family understands the arithmetic of a can and a half. Your mother goes back to the wash pot. Your father hangs the hat on the nail inside the door where it lives. And he stands a second with his hand still on the brim. So, you get a Sunday at home. And nothing happens on it. It is worth saying plain, because it does not come around often. Nobody goes anywhere. Dinner is at noon, and it is beans and cornbread and the good part of a ham. And your mother sets the table with the plates turned right side up, which she has not done in a month. Ordinarily, every plate and cup and bowl in this house sits face down on the oilcloth until the food is on the stove and ready. And then they get flipped one at a time at the last second. Because a plate left face up for an hour is a plate you have to wipe. Today, she lays them out like a woman in a picture. She looks at them sitting there in a row, catching the light, and does not remark on it. And neither does anybody else. And every person at that table notices. After dinner, Junie sits on the floor by the front room window with the sun on her and combs her hair out. She has got long hair, and it is dry as straw, the way everybody's is out here. And she works the comb through it and holds it up in the light, and her hair stands off her head and follows it. She discovered this a week ago, and she has not gotten tired of it. She comes over to where you are sitting and holds the comb an inch off the back of your hand, and it snaps. A little blue sting, sharp enough to make you jerk. She laughs at you. She does it again. And you tell her to quit. And she does it a third time. And you tell her to quit in your father's voice. And she quits. Grandma Ross says from her chair that she used to do that to her brother with a cat. That is the whole afternoon. Your mother beats quilts. Your father walks out and looks at the wheat that did not come up and walks back. Junie counts things. Your grandmother sits on the porch with her chin up and breathes. And the curtains stand out straight from every window in the house. And the light stays sharp on the floorboards all the way past 2 o'clock. If these long, quiet nights help you sleep, a like or a subscribe keeps me making them. And I would like to know what part of the country you are listening from. Turn your lamp down now and stay in this house a while. The wind has not started yet. The telephone hangs on the kitchen wall between the window and the pie safe. It is a wooden box, about the size of a bread box, with 2 brass bells on top like a pair of eyes. A black horn to talk into, a receiver on a hook, and a crank on the right-hand side. It goes off at 10 that morning while your mother is out at the wash pot. 4 short rings, quick ones, close together, then quiet. Ione Mabry lives 1.5 miles southeast in a little house with a cottonwood behind it. And she has lived there by herself since her husband died in 1929. And 4 short rings belong to her, and to nobody else on this line. Junie is at the table with a slate. She stops. You come in off the porch. Neither one of you has any business with that call, and both of you go to the wall anyway. Because that is how a farm line works, and every soul on it knows how it works. You lift the receiver off the hook and hold it out so Junie can get her ear against the other side. You can hear them come on. Every house is strung on the same 2 wires. So when a receiver comes off a hook somewhere down the road, the sound in your ear thins out a little, the way a lamp dims when somebody lights a second one off the same oil. One comes off, then another, then 2 together. Junie holds up fingers to count and gets to 5 before she gives up. Mrs. Mabry is talking to Mrs. Coble, and here's what she has to say. There is a heifer standing in her feedlot that does not belong to her. Red, white face, one ear that goes sideways. She has had it since yesterday evening and she has fed it. And she would like to know whose it is, because she is not running a hotel. Mrs. Coble allows that it sounds like one of theirs. Mrs. Mabry says that is what she thought. Then a man's voice comes in from up the line and says, "The elevator in Boise City was paying 79 cents on Friday, and there is talk it will not hold." Somebody says a word about that. Somebody says a longer word about it, and then apologizes to the ladies. There is laughing. Then Mrs. Coble asks, "Does anybody have a number 7 needle to spare? Because hers went through a crack in the floor and is gone for good." 3 people say they will look. A heifer with a sideways ear, 79 cents. And a sewing needle, 11 minutes of it, with 5 houses listening. And you and your little sister standing there with your heads together over one receiver like it is a church service. The men who use this line built it. No company ever came out here and put it in. Around 1922, the farmers along this stretch got tired of driving to town to find things out. So they bought wire and glass insulators out of a catalog and strung it themselves, mostly on the fence posts that were already standing. Because a post is a post. It runs on top of the barbed wire north to the Pruitt place and past it, and south to the Cobles. And it crosses the section road on 2 poles, your father and Cal Pruitt, set with a borrowed auger. Weather is hard on it. The 2 of them patched that line 4 times over the winter, twice for a post that went over in a blow. Once where the wire got down and drifted dirt and shorted itself out, and once for a reason they never did find, which took them a day and a half and most of a Saturday, walking the fence in the cold with a pair of pliers and a roll of wire, stopping every quarter mile to listen at the box. There is a battery box under the phone with 2 dry cells in it. When you want to call somebody, you take the receiver off. You turn that crank, and the crank makes the ring. And every house on the line hears it. 2 long turns and 1 short is your family. Cal Pruitt is 1 long and 3 short. Mrs. Mabry has her 4 short. The Cobles are 3 long, 1 long ring, 1 steady ring that a person keeps turning and does not stop. Means everybody, pick up your receiver right now. All of you, wherever you are in the house, you have heard that ring twice in your life. Once when the Larson boy went into the well casing, and once for a grass fire west of the road in 1933. You hang up and Junie goes back to her slate. Your mother comes in from the washpot with her arms red to the elbow and asks who it was. You tell her a heifer. She says good. The rest of the morning she works on the house. And what she works on are the things she has been putting off for a month because there was no point in doing them. She scrapes the old gummed paper off the north sash with a table knife, and it comes away in gray strips with a line of packed dirt behind it. And she wipes the channel out and looks at it and leaves it bare. She pulls the rags out from under both doors and takes them out and shakes them, and they come apart in her hands. So she puts them in the rag bag to be cut up again. She washes the bed sheet that has hung over the kitchen window on a rod since the 3rd of the month. And the water in that pot goes the color of coffee with milk in it. Twice, before she is satisfied. There is a can of petroleum jelly on the shelf above the washstand. Everybody in this house has gone around all spring with a little of it wiped up inside each nostril, morning and night, because it catches what you breathe before it gets down where it does harm. It is the only thing anybody out here knows to do. She does not put any on today, and neither does Junie. And the can sits up there with the lid on it. After dinner, your grandmother takes Junie in to lie down, because Junie will not lie down for anybody else. You hear them through the door. Junie says she is not tired and does not want to. Grandma Ross says nobody said tired. She said, lie down. Then it gets quiet. And then the old woman starts up with the thing she does. Do not count sheep, she says. Sheep are a fool's business. A person has to make them up. And making things up is work. Count what you have got already. Count your own breath. In is 1. Out is still 1. In again is 2. Go on to 60 and start back at 1. And if you lose your place, no harm done. Start at 1. Junie asks, what happens at 60? Nothing happens at 60. Her grandmother says, that is the whole point of it. You stand in the kitchen and listen to a 9-year-old counting her own breathing out loud. Slower and slower, until it quits being out loud. Then the bells go off again, and every person in the house jumps. Too long. And a short. Junie comes out of that bedroom like a shot and beats you to the wall by 3 feet. Because getting to your own ring first is the best thing that happens to her most weeks. She stands on her toes with the horn too high for her, and says hello into it in her company voice. It is Mrs. Pruitt, wanting to know if your mother is coming to the sewing on Wednesday. Along about 1 o'clock, your father says, come, walk out with me. And you go. Because when he says that, it is generally worth going. Out the kitchen door, past the chicken house, through the gate into the home quarter. And the two of you walk out into the wheat. There is no wheat. He put in 60 acres of it last fall, and it came up. It came up green and about 2 inches, and it looked fine for 11 days. And then it stopped. And then it went. And now there is a field the color of a paper sack, with a stubble of little dead stems in it that break under your boot without making any sound. He walks out 100 yards, stops, and puts the toe of his boot into the ground and pushes it forward. The dirt does not turn over. It lifts. It comes up in front of his boot, the way flour comes up in front of a spoon. And it hangs there. And about half of it goes off sideways in a breeze you can barely feel on your face. He does it again and gets the same thing. Then he squats down and takes up a handful and lets it out of his fist. And it runs out of the bottom of his hand like something poured. 1926. He says, a man could not have done that here with a shovel. He gets up and keeps walking north, up the field toward the fence line. Along the fence, the dirt is drifted. It has been building there since February, piled against the bottom 2 wires in a long ridge that runs the whole quarter mile, 3 feet high in places, smooth on top, with a scalloped edge along the lee side, exactly like a snowdrift in March. The bottom 2 strands are buried in it. The 3rd strand has dirt hanging off the barbs in little brown beards. Where the drift is highest, the cattle could walk over the fence if they took a notion. At the northwest corner, the fence turns, and inside the corner, there is a piece of ground about 40 feet on a side that was never broken out. It is an awkward shape, and no plow was ever going to fit into the point of it. So it sat. It has sat there since your grandfather's day. Low gray green grass, curly, only a few inches high, growing in tight little bunches, almost on top of one another. Your father steps over the wire, squats down in it, and gets out his pocket knife. He cuts a square of that sod about the size of a saucer, and he has to work at it. He runs the blade around all four sides, and it does not want to come. He has to get the knife under it and lever it up. And when it does come, it comes in one piece, whole, holding itself together. And he stands up and turns it over in his hand. The underside is a mat. Roots, brown and fine, and packed so thick you cannot see any dirt between them, wound around each other tight enough that it looks like felt off the bottom of a chair leg. He hands it to you, and it has weight. You can hold it by one corner and shake it, and nothing falls off. Buffalo grass, he says. That is what was here. Most of it. From here to the mountains about. It goes down a good ways, and it holds the ground on in a wind, and that is its whole job. Then he steps back over the wire into his own field and squats down and tries to cut a piece out of that. The knife goes in like it is going into ash. He cuts the four sides and gets underneath, and it comes up about half of it, and it falls apart in his hand before he can turn it over. He tries a different spot. Same thing. The third time, he does not bother with the knife. He pushes his fingers straight down into it, and the ground opens up around his hand with no more argument than a bucket of sand. 30 steps between the two of them. He wipes the blade on his trouser leg and folds it away. And he tells you the rest, standing up, looking out over the field. And it does not take him long. Wheat was $2 a bushel in 1917, and the government was asking for every acre a man could put under. He was 24. He broke out the West 80 that year, and the home quarter the year after with a lister and 4 head. And everybody he knew was doing the same thing. And the ones who did it fastest did the best. He got the tractor in 28 on paper from the dealer in Boise City. 32 acres a day with it instead of 6. He put in the whole northwest section in 9 days that fall, and he says he was proud of it. And he was proud of it for 2 years. Then he turns the piece of sod over in his hand one more time and says something you were not expecting. I cut one of these the year I broke this ground, he says. Set it up on a post by the barn door to dry. Meant to keep it. You ask him what happened to it. He says he does not know. It sat up there a while, and then one day it was not there. He hands it back to you and starts for the house. On the way, he shows you the ridges, where he has been listing the field crossways to the wind, running deep furrows every few feet to catch the dirt and hold it. Everybody up and down this county is doing it. It works about a third of the time, and it is what a man does, because standing still is worse. Junie meets you at the gate. She wants to know what he has got. And he hands it down to her, and she takes it in both hands because she has to. She turns it over. She looks at the top of it, then at the underside for a good long while, and she picks at the root mat with one finger, and it does not come apart for her either. She asks what it is. Grass, he says. She keeps hold of it all the way to the house. On the porch, your grandmother puts her hand out for it, and Junie gives it over, and the old woman sits there and turns it in her lap with her thumbs. 97. She says, your grandfather set the first corner post on this place in the fall of 97, and it took him the better part of a morning to sink one hole, because we had no auger and the sod would not give. He used a spud bar and a sledge, and he wore his shirt out at both shoulders on that one post. She hands it back to Junie. There was grass on this ground, then would hide a calf lying down, she says, and turns her face back toward the sun. Junie carries the sod inside and sets it on the windowsill in the front room, up where the light is, the way she does with everything. You come in from the field and wash your hands at the stand, and your father sits down at the kitchen table and does not get up again for a while. Your mother is at the stove with the coffee pot. Grandma Ross is still out on the porch. Junie has gone off to the front room with her piece of sod, and you can hear her talking to it. Your father sets his hat on the table and rubs his face with both hands. Note comes due the 15th of July. He says, your mother pours out 3 cups without being asked and brings them over and sits down, which she does not often do in the middle of a day. And that is how you know she has been waiting on this. The paper is up on the shelf by the door, next to the clock. It came in a brown envelope from the bank in Boise City on the 11th of March. And your father read it standing in the doorway with his coat still on, and then put it up there. And it has sat 5 weeks, getting a fine gray coat on it, like everything else in this house. Nobody has moved it. Nobody has thrown it out either. Your mother asks how much can be paid. He tells her, and she works it through out loud, which is her way. The allotment check on the acres they did not plant. What the cream and eggs bring in a month. What the 2 heifers would fetch, which is less than half of what they fetched 2 years ago. Because everybody in 5 counties is selling cattle, and nobody anywhere is buying any, it comes out short. She says the number twice and puts her hands flat on the oilcloth. That is when you say your piece, and you have had it ready for 4 months. You say there is work out there. You say you are 17, and you can pick, and you can drive, and you can do anything a man does. And if you got on somewhere, you could send money back, and it would be more than this place makes with you on it eating 3 times a day. Your father turns his cup around a half turn. The note does not follow you, he says. It stays here. It stays with the ground. A man can walk off from this place, and the place will still be sitting right here, owing what it owes. And the bank does not care 1 nickel where he went. You say you are talking about money coming back. He says he knows what you are talking about. Your mother gets up and goes to the pie safe and comes back with a postal card and lays it on the table. It is from her cousin, Ellen, and it has been in this house since January. On the front is a picture of a road with palm trees down both sides of it. On the back, Ellen has written 11 lines in a small, careful hand about how the work is steady enough and the winters are nothing at all. And there are more people from Kansas out there than there are in Kansas. Everybody in this house has read that card. Your father looks at it lying there and does not pick it up. Ellen's husband is a hired man. He says he was a hired man in Sumner County, and he is a hired man in California. That is not a step. Your mother says a hired man gets paid. It is the closest thing to a raised voice this argument produces. And it is not raised, only level, in a way her voice usually is not. Your father sits there and takes it. And then he says, the true part, my father is buried on this place. He says, so is the first girl. There is 18 years of your life in this house, and I broke this ground myself when I was younger than the boy. And every man in this county told me I was doing right. Nobody says anything to that. Then your mother tells him, quiet, that she is not asking him to hand anybody anything. She is asking what happens if there is nothing left to hand. And there, it sits between them. You look at the shelf by the door, while they are both quiet. The paper is up there in the gray. Beside it is the clock, and the clock is running. There is one other thing in this house that belongs to this conversation, and nobody at the table knows about it but you. Last October, on a Saturday, you were in the store in Boise City, and there was a road map on the counter by the register, the kind the oil companies give away. You took one, not stole it. They are free. You folded it into eighths and carried it home inside your shirt and put it in the seed catalog on the shelf in the front room, 2/3 of the way back. In among the pages for the sorghum, it is still there. You have looked at it maybe 9 times since October, and you have got the line of it by heart. Boise City down to Dalhart. Dalhart west, on the 66, through Tucumcari and Albuquerque and Gallup and Flagstaff and Needles, and then a long yellow line across the bottom of California to Bakersfield. 1,200 and some miles. You have counted it out lying in bed. You do not say one word about that map at this table. Your father finishes his coffee and sets the cup down and says the 15th of July is 3 months off, and there is no sense settling in April. What does not have to be settled until July? And a rain in May changes every figure on this table. Your mother says that is true. She says it without any weight on it either way, and gets up and takes the cups. And it is not agreement, and it is not the other thing. And your father knows the difference, and so do you. He puts his hands on the table to push himself up. Then Junie hollers from the front room that the chickens are going in. Your father does not move for a second. He says, "Going in where?" "In the house," she says. "All of them. They are all walking in. It is 2 o'clock in the afternoon." You get out on the porch first. The hens are filing into the chicken house through the little door with their heads down and their feet going quick, the way they do at sundown when the light is nearly gone, one behind the other in a line. By the time you are down the steps, the last of them is inside and the yard is empty. The sun is straight overhead and yellow and warm on the back of your neck. Your father comes out and stands at the edge of the porch and looks at that chicken house for a while and does not say a word about it. Then Junie says, "Look at the rabbits. They are coming across the section road from the north in bunches, 6 and 8 and a dozen together. Jackrabbits, running long and low and level, with their ears laid flat back. And they come through the fence line and across the corner of the home quarter and keep going south. They do not scatter when they see you. They do not stop. They do not seem to know there is anybody standing in this yard at all. One goes by close enough that you can hear its feet. You watch them come through for 4 or 5 minutes, and then the ground is empty again. Then the birds start. They come out of the north low, and they keep coming. Plovers and blackbirds, and a long ragged string of ducks up higher, and little brown birds by the 100 that nobody in this yard can name. And every one of them is going the same direction, and every one of them is going hard. They come over the barn and over the house in waves, wave after wave, low enough that you can hear the wings on the closest ones, a dry, papery sound. It goes on a long time. Junie starts to count them and quits. Your mother comes out and stands in the door with a dish towel in her hand and does not come any further than that. Grandma Ross is still in the cane chair. She has turned her head to watch them go over, and she keeps it turned, and her hands have come off the arms of the chair and folded together in her lap. Not one person on this porch says what they are thinking. Every one of them has a thought in their head, and not one of them puts it out loud. And if you asked them later, why? None of them could tell you. Your father steps down off the porch and walks out to the northwest corner of the yard, past the pump, out to where the fence turns. And he stops there and looks north. He stands a long while. You watch his back. He has his hands down at his sides, and he is looking at the country the way he looks at a machine that has quit, going over it, waiting on it to show him something. The sky up there is clean. There is nothing in it. It is the same blue it has been since 7 o'clock this morning, all the way down to the ground. 4 miles to the Pruitt place, and past it to where the earth rolls over. He comes back across the yard, goes up the steps past your mother, and into the house without a word to anybody, and comes back out with his canvas coat over his arm. It is 70-some degrees in this yard. Your mother looks at that coat, and then at his face, and then she turns around and starts taking the quilts off the line, and then the wind quits. It has been nothing all day. A little breath out of the southwest that barely moved the windmill, and now it is gone entirely. The wheel up on the tower turns half a revolution and stops with a small metal knock and sits there. The quilts on the line go slack and hang straight down. The dust Junie's feet kicked up on the path does not drift anywhere. It settles back down where it came from. The air goes heavy and warm and dead still, and the yard gets so quiet that you can hear the Pruitt windmill 3/4 of a mile off, still going. The telephone starts ringing, and it does not stop. One long ring, and it keeps going, and it goes on past where any ring has ever gone. 2 seconds. 4. Somebody up that line has hold of a crank and is turning it, and is not going to quit. And the 2 brass bells are hammering flat out on the kitchen wall. And every person on this place is up and moving before the first second of it is over. Your mother comes through the door with an armload of quilts and drops them on the floor. Your father is 3 steps behind you, and you are the one who gets there. You take the receiver off the hook, and he says, "Put it out where we can hear." So you hold it away from your ear and turn it into the room. Ella Halstead is on the line. The Halsteads are 9 miles north, straight up the road, past the Pruitts, and over the county line, into the corner of Baca County. And Ella Halstead has never in her life talked fast. She is talking fast. There is something coming, she says. It is north of us, and it is on the ground. Receivers are coming off hooks all up and down the line. You can hear them, the sound thinning out. One and another and another. 6 of them. 8. More than you have ever heard on this line at one time. Not one person says a word into it. Everybody is just there. Cal Pruitt's voice comes on and asks, "How far?" She cannot tell. She says it is on the ground, and it goes all the way across, and she means all the way, east and west, as far as she can see either direction, with no end to it on either side. Somebody asks, "How high?" There is a pause on the line. "Higher than anything," she says. "Higher than anything I have got words for. It is above the whole sky in the north, and it is coming over the top." Then she says, "The part that gets into everybody at once. It is black," she says, "not brown. I have been in this country 26 years, and I have seen every color of dirt there is in the air. And this is not any of them. It is black the way a wall is black. Her husband says something behind her that you cannot make out. Lloyd says, 30 minutes ago it was a line on the ground, and now it is over us. She says. Lloyd says, get in the house. Then she says the last thing anybody hears her say, which is that the birds went over an hour ago. And the line goes, it does not click and it does not cut. It drops out in the middle of the word she is saying. And what is left in your ear is a flat, empty hiss with nothing behind it. And that hiss is not the sound of a dead line, because a dead line is silent. This one is making a noise. Cal Pruitt is still on. He says, Ella. He says, Ella. Are you there? He says it 3 times. Mrs. Mabry says, in a voice smaller than her usual one, that she is going to go bring her chickens in. Your father takes the receiver out of your hand. Cal, he says, what do you see? Cal says nothing yet. Go look. Your father says, there is the sound of a receiver being set down on wood. And then a stretch of time where 5 households stand in their kitchens holding their own receivers, listening to an empty line, and to each other breathing. It lasts about 90 seconds, and it is one of the longest pieces of time you have ever stood inside of. Then Cal comes back on, and his voice has changed. I see it. He says, Vase, get your people in. Then he is gone too. And this time the hiss comes up louder, and under it there is a crackling, little dry snaps, 3 and 4 together, like somebody walking on a frozen puddle a long way off. Your father hangs the receiver on the hook. 4 minutes, start to finish. You will think about that later, and you will not believe it. But the clock on the shelf says 4 minutes. Your mother is already moving. Junie, she says, get every hen inside and latch it. Go. Junie goes out that door at a dead run without one word of argument. And it is the first time in her life that has happened. Your father heads for the porch, and you go with him. Out to the northwest corner of the yard, by the pump. And the 2 of you look north. The sky is not clean anymore. Up there, where the ground goes over. 4 miles off, past the Pruitt barn. A line is laid across the bottom of the blue. From here, it is no thicker than a pencil mark on a page. Dark, level, running east and west out past the ends of what you can see. There is nothing above it. Your eye keeps going back to that. No cloud over it, and no cloud under it, and no shape to it anywhere. It is the top of the world going dark from the bottom up. Your father looks at it maybe 5 seconds. Then he turns around and starts giving orders. And he is not a quiet man anymore. What follows takes 9 minutes, and every person on this place knows exactly what to do, because they have all done every piece of it before. There is no panic in this yard. Nobody runs into anybody. Nothing gets dropped. Nobody has to be told twice. This family has been shutting a house against dirt for 4 years, and every one of them has a job in it. And the jobs have never once been assigned out loud. They have only never done it this fast. Your mother takes the house. She goes down the line of windows on the south side, and every sash comes down hard, and every latch gets thrown. Kitchen, front room, both of them. Bedroom. She climbs the ladder into the loft herself with her skirt in one fist to get the one under the peak that swelled shut. And she comes back down with dust on her forearms. Then she starts on the rags. Every door in this house gets a rolled rag at the bottom of it. She keeps a bag of them cut from feed sacks and worn-out sheeting, and she goes around the whole place on her knees, jamming them in with the heel of her hand. Front door, kitchen door, both bedroom doors, the trap into the cellar. She pulls the bag apart, hunting the last two, and takes a good dish towel instead, without stopping to think about it. She brings the clean bedsheet in off the line, half wet from the wash pot, pins it over the kitchen window on the rod where the old one hung, and wets it down further with a dipper and her hand. Junie has the chickens, 11 hens and a roaster, and she counts them twice, with the door held open, standing in the smell of that building, hollering the numbers. One of them is out under the step and will not come, and she goes in after it on her hands and knees, and comes out with it upside down by both legs, and puts it in and drops the latch and runs. Your father takes the barn and the mill. He turns the mules in, pulls the barn door across, drops the bar, and puts the pin through it. Then he goes to the windmill and throws the lever over and ties the wheel out of gear, because a windmill left running in a real blow will beat itself to pieces on the tower. You take water. It has been your job since you were 11. You get on the hand pump and fill the 2 house buckets, then the boiler off the back of the stove, then the crock. Your mother comes out on the step and says everything. You look at her. Everything that will hold water, she says. Everything in this house. Then she starts handing it out the door to you. The dishpan, the wash basin, the churn, 2 syrup pails, a stone jar she keeps beans in, which she dumps out onto the table first. The coffee pot, she hands them out, and you fill them at that pump, one after another, with your arm going like a piston and the water coming up cold. And you carry them in 2 at a time and set them along the wall by the stove. Your arm is burning by the 6th one, and you do not stop. The last thing you fill is the stock tank, and you get it about 2/3, and your father comes by and says, "Leave it." While you are pumping, you can see north over the top of the chicken house. The line is not a line anymore. It has thickness in it. It has stood up off the horizon and taken the bottom 1/3 of the sky, and the top of it is not flat across anymore either. There are shapes up there now, big, slow, rolling ones, curling over and folding down into themselves, and the whole of it is coming on. It is over the Pruitt place. You know, because the Pruitt barn is not there. The light in this yard is still yellow. Nothing about that fits. The sun is up there in the south, doing what it has done all day. And the yard is bright and warm, and your shadow lies on the ground beside the pump. And 4 miles north, the world has been erased. Your mother comes out on the step and calls everybody in. Grandma Ross is the last thing. Your father goes and gets her. She is in the cane chair with her hands folded. And she has been watching the north the whole time. Nobody was looking at her. He comes up on the porch and squats down beside the chair. "Mother Ross," he says, "we are going in now." "I know it," she says. He gets her up by the arm, and she comes. And she is slow, and neither one of them hurries. He walks her through the front room and back into the bedroom on the north side, the one with the fewest cracks, and the only one with a solid inner wall on 2 sides, and gets her into the good chair in the corner with the quilts. Your mother is already in there, laying a folded sheet on the sill of the one window that room has. She sits down and gets her breath. Out in the kitchen, your mother goes around the table turning every plate over. Plates, cups, bowls, the sugar dish, the glass butter dish with the lid, all of them face down on the oilcloth. She takes the 6 white plates that sat up in the light all day, and she flips them one at a time. And she does not say anything while she does it. Junie is at the kitchen door counting. She counts you and her mother and her father, then goes to the bedroom door and counts her grandmother, then comes back and counts everybody again. She does it a 3rd time out loud and gets 5 and looks up. 5 is right, your mother says. Then your father says, the cow. He is at the kitchen window looking out past the barn at the lot, and the bread heifer is standing in the middle of it, with her head up and turned to the north, and she has not moved. Your father is already going for the door when your mother says his name. She is 6 weeks off calving, and she is standing out there in the open. He says, your mother does not say anything back to that. And that is how she says yes. He takes the syrup bucket down off the nail by the door. There is 2 inches of black strap in the bottom of it, and it has been there since February. And every cow on this place knows the sound that bucket makes. He looks at you. You already have your hat on. 70 steps from the kitchen door to the barn. You know because you counted it when you were 9 years old and had nothing else to do. And it has been 70 steps every day since. And there is a path worn into it a blind man could follow. You go out. The first thing is that the air has come alive again. The wind is back, out of the north now, and it is not hard yet. Maybe 15 miles an hour. But there is a push in it that was not there an hour ago, and it is cold on the front of your shirt. That is the wrong part. It is the middle of April in the afternoon, and the wind on your face is coming out of a cellar. The second thing is what is happening on the ground. There is dirt running past your boots, not blowing up in the air, running, low and quick and level, a sheet of it about knee-high, pouring south across the yard in ripples and long streaming fingers, going around the pump base and around your ankles the way creek water goes around a stone. You can see the shape of the wind in it. It comes across the open ground in gusts you can watch traveling toward you, a darker patch moving over the dirt, and then it is on you and past. Your boots disappear in it and come back. Your father goes ahead of you across the lot with the bucket swinging. He is not running. He walks the way he walks, and you are behind him, and you both look north once. The wall is not 4 miles off anymore. It is over the section road, which is 1.25 miles. And now that it is close enough to have detail in it, you can see that it is not a wall at all. It is a rolling thing. The whole front of it is turning over on itself, boiling up from the bottom and folding down across the top, and the pieces that curl out ahead of it are the size of the barn, and they are the color of the inside of a stovepipe. There is no sound coming off it yet. That is the part you cannot get your mind around while you are walking. A thing that big ought to be roaring. It is coming across that country without one sound, and the only noise anywhere is the wind in your ears and your own boots and the syrup bucket knocking against your father's leg. The heifer is at the north end of the lot with her head up and her nose pointed straight into it. She is a big red one, 4 years old, first calf coming in late May, and she is a gentle animal and always has been. You get up beside her and put a hand on her shoulder, and the muscle under her hide is jumping. She is not looking at you. She is looking north, with the whites showing all the way around her eyes and her breath coming fast through her nose. You get a hand in her halter and pull, and she braces. Leave off, your father says. He comes around in front of her, into her line of sight, and shakes the bucket. It is an old, dry rattle, tin and dried syrup, and it means grain. And it has meant grain to her since she was a calf. She does not move. He shakes it again, and she does not move. And he steps in and puts it right up under her nose, so she has to smell it. She drops her head. That is all it takes. Once her head is down, and her nose is in that bucket, she is a cow again instead of whatever she was. And your father backs up slow, with the bucket held out, and she follows it. And you get in on her hip and lean. And the two of you walk her the length of that lot, and through the gate, and into the barn. Inside it is dark and warm, and it smells like every good thing. The mules are in the far stalls with their heads over the boards, and both of them are turned north too. And you had never thought about the fact that a mule can face a direction inside a closed building. Your father dumps what is in the bucket into the heifer's box, and she puts her head in it. He checks the mule's water. He looks up at the roof, both ends, the way a man does. He walks the length of the barn once. Then he stops at the door. There is a nail inside the door frame with a coil of rope hanging on it. 1/2-inch manila, about 80 feet. And it has hung there as long as you can remember. And it gets used for pulling calves and hauling things up into the loft and whatever else comes up. He takes it off the nail and puts his arm through it. He does not say anything about it, and he does not look at you. He puts his shoulder into the door and slides it across and drops the bar into the brackets and puts the pin through. And he starts back for the house, with the rope over his shoulder and the empty bucket in his other hand. 70 steps back. They take longer. The wind has come up while you were inside. It is not 15 anymore. It is 30 or better, straight in your face. And it has grit in it now. Real grit, coming off the top of the drifts along the fence. You have to put your head down and turn your face out of it. The dirt running on the ground is up past your knees. It is up past the bottom rail of the fence. The yard has gone the color of the ground, and the two of you are wading in it, halfway across. Your father stops and turns around. You stop with him. The wall has come up over the whole north. It is not a thing in the distance anymore. It is above you, the top of it leaning out over the yard, high enough that you have to tip your head back to find the edge of it against what is left of the blue. The sun is still on your back. The yard is still yellow. There is a line running across the ground about a half-mile out where the light stops. It is coming across the section like the shadow of a cloud. All right, your father says. He turns around, and the two of you go the rest of the way. Your mother is holding the kitchen door open with her shoulder into the wind, and Junie is behind her. And you go in, and your father comes in last. And it takes both of them leaning to get that door shut. He drops the bar. Then he puts the rope on the table. Then he goes into the north bedroom and comes back, dragging the wooden trunk, the flat-topped one that lives under the bed with quilts and papers in it. And he walks it across the kitchen floor and turns it and shoves it up against the bottom of the kitchen door. Nobody asks him what that is for. The light goes yellow, not sunset yellow, something else. It comes up out of nowhere and lays over everything in the kitchen at once. The table, the oilcloth, the plates turned face down, your mother's arms, all of it the same flat brass color. and it does not move. Junie says the light is funny. Nobody answers her. It goes to copper inside a minute. The window over the sink is copper, and the room behind you is copper, and your father's face across the table is copper. And out in the yard, everything has gone the shade of an old penny. Then it goes brown. Then the temperature falls out from under the room. You feel it on your arms first. There is no wind in this house. All of it is shut, and rags stuffed and latched, and the air in this kitchen still drops away under you. 20 degrees or better. Fast enough that Junie's teeth start going, and your mother reaches for her without looking. The sound changes 3 times. First, it is wind. Wind, you know. Wind on a house, pushing on the north wall, and finding the eaves. Then it is sand on glass. Every window on the north side, all at once. A hard, dry hissing that climbs until it is louder than the wind and does not let up. And it is the sound of a thing being scoured. Then the third one comes up under both of those, and it has no direction in it. It is not in the north wall, or the roof, or the floor. It is in all of them. A hum that gets into the boards, and the table, and your back teeth. And it is the sound of an amount of moving air that a person out here has no measurement for. And once it starts, it does not stop. The kitchen window quits being a window. It does not fade. There is a window with brown light in it. And then there is a rectangle on the wall darker than the wall around it. And there is nothing on the other side of the glass at all. Lamb, your mother says. Your father has it in his hands already, and he cannot find the matches. He goes over the shelf twice with his fingers. Your mother reaches past him and puts the box in his hand. Junie holds her hand up in front of her own face. She holds it about 6 inches off her nose and turns it over. Palm and back, and says she cannot see it. Your mother takes that hand out of the air and holds on to it. The match goes, and it does not light anything. It is a small yellow bead in the middle of the room with nothing around it. Then the wick catches, and the chimney goes on, and the light comes up, and it reaches about as far as the edge of the table and stops. 5 faces in that circle. Your grandmother in the doorway of the north bedroom with one hand on the frame, come out to be with the others. Your father looks over at the shelf by the door, where the clock is. 20 minutes past 5. He says, "It is the last time anybody in this house says a time out loud." The dust comes in through the north wall first, and it does not come in as dust. It comes in as lines. You are looking right at that wall when it starts, because there is nothing else to look at. And along the seam where 2 boards butt together, a thin brown line is suddenly hanging in the air, straight down from a knot near the ceiling, almost to the floor. Moving. It is not falling. It stands there and travels. Fed from the top, about as thick as a bootlace. Then there is another one 3 feet over. Then there are more of them than you can count. Up and down the whole north wall. 20 or 30. Brown lines hanging in the lamplight. Every one of them perfectly still and perfectly steady and running the height of the room. Paper, your mother says. She has a bucket of flour paste on the stove inside of 2 minutes, and the newspaper out of the box by the wood. And it is the Boise City News from 3 weeks back, and it is the only paper in this house. She tears it into strips on the table. Everybody works. Your father does the north window. He takes the strips your mother hands him and lays them around the sash, all four sides, pressing them into the corners with his thumb and running the flat of his hand down the length of them, and where the frame has pulled away from the wall over the years. He stuffs it with rag first and papers over the top of it. He does the west window the same way. Then the door. Junie does the keyholes. She is on her knees at the front door with a rag and a table knife, working a piece of it into the hole, and then she goes around the whole house and does every keyhole there is, 4 of them, and comes back and asks if the stovepipe counts. Leave the stovepipe, your mother says. You take the floor. There are cracks between the boards in the front room and dust is coming up out of them. Nobody is ready for that one. Everybody in this house has spent 4 years thinking about what comes down and what comes in the sides. And here is a room where the dirt is coming up from underneath, pushed by the wind, working under the joists. You go along on your hands and knees, laying a wet rag into the seams, and it takes you 20 minutes to do one room. Your mother hangs the wet sheets, the good one over the kitchen window on its rod, wet down with a dipper, another over the north bedroom window, 2 more soaked in the wash basin and hung on nails, 1 over the front door and 1 over the kitchen door. So anybody going through either one has to push through cloth first. The rag rolls at the bottoms of the doors get done over, wet this time. Then the ceiling starts. You notice it because of the table. The lamp is on the kitchen table, and there is a circle of light on the oilcloth around it. And in that circle, you can watch a fine brown ring building up on the surface, building fast enough to see. And when you look up, there is nothing there. No crack, no hole. Those ceiling boards are tight, and they have been papered twice. It is coming through anyway, through the shingles and the boards and the paper, coming down out of the whole ceiling at once, everywhere in the room. So fine that there is nothing to see between up there and down here. It only exists when it lands. Your mother wipes the table. She takes the cloth off the nail and goes around the lamp and gets it clean. And there is a good 3 seconds where that oilcloth is red and white checked, and you can see the pattern in it. Then it starts again. 3 minutes later, she wipes it again. The 3rd time, she stands there with the cloth in her hand and watches the surface come back up brown under the lamp. And she does not wipe it. She stands a while. Then she folds the cloth over twice, sets it on the edge of the table, and sits down. Nobody in this house wipes anything else tonight. You get up to help your father with the last of the paste, and you knock the bucket with your knee. It does not go over. It slops. About a cup of flour paste comes out over the rim and onto the floor and across the toe of your boot. And it is nothing. It is the smallest thing that has happened all day. Your mother is on you before the bucket has quit rocking. Watch what you are doing, she says. That is the last of the flour. It is not the last of the flour. There is most of a sack of it in the bin, and everybody in this room knows it. She hears it come out of her mouth. You can see her hear it. She stands there, with her hand still out toward the bucket, and something goes across her face. And she does not take it back, because there is no way to take a thing like that back in front of your husband and your mother and your 9-year-old. And saying she is sorry would make it bigger than it is. So she picks the bucket up and sets it on the table and gets a rag and gets down on the floor and cleans up the paste herself. And you stand there and let her, because You understand somehow that this is how it gets settled. When she is done, she hands you the rag and says, "Get the rest of that off your boot." That is the apology. You take it. Your father goes around the room with the lamp held up, following the lines with his eyes, checking his own work. He does one more pass on the north wall with the rag and the paste. Then he stops in the middle of it with the brush in his hand. He is looking at the lamp. The light coming off it is not the light it was 20 minutes ago. The flame is fine and the chimney is clear. It gets about 2 feet off the glass and gives out. And past that, there is no dark exactly. There is a brown that the light is standing in. The air in this house has stopped being air. You can see it now. It is not smoke, and it does not hang in layers. It is everywhere at once, and it is even, and it takes the light and eats it. And when your mother walks from the stove to the table, she comes through it and out of it, the way somebody walks through fog at night. Your father sets the brush down in the paste bucket. There is nothing left to seal. He has been through every crack in this house twice, and it is coming in anyway. Through the walls and the roof and the floor and the paper and the paste. And it is in the room now, and it is in everybody's chest. And there is no more work to do. He looks over at your mother. "Get the rags," she says. Your mother tears the rag strips herself. 6 of them, 1 for every face, plus a spare, and wets each one in the basin and wrings it out and hands them around. You tie yours across your nose and mouth and knot it behind your head. It is a strange thing to do in your own kitchen. Junie cannot get hers tied. Your mother does it for her, turns her around by the shoulders, looks at it, and pulls it up higher under her eyes. Grandma Ross gets hers held to her face instead of tied, because she says she cannot get her breath through a knot. And she sits in the doorway of the north bedroom with a wet cloth in her fist, held up under her nose, like a woman with a cold. Then you go to try the telephone. It is your own idea. Nobody sends you. You have been thinking about the Pruitts for 20 minutes, and about Ian Mabry, a mile and a half off in that house by herself. And you go to the wall box to turn the crank. Your hand gets about an inch from the brass handle. The spark comes off the crank into your finger with a crack you can hear over the wind. Blue, about as long as your thumbnail, and it goes up your arm to the elbow, and your whole arm comes back at you on its own. And you are standing in the middle of the kitchen, shaking your hand out and saying a word your mother does not care for. "Do not touch that box again," your father says. He tries the stove lid with the back of his knuckle and gets one smaller. He touches the door latch with the point of his elbow and gets one there. That is how the house changes. Everybody in it learns a new way to move around inside their own home, and they learn it in about 10 minutes. You open the bedroom door with your elbow. You pick up the coffee pot with a fold of your shirt tail. Your mother handles the lamp with the dish towel wrapped around her hand. Junie is told twice not to touch her father, and then a third time in a voice that means it, because when she reaches for his arm and comes within a finger of it, there is a snap and he jerks and says "damn" out loud in front of his own children, which happens in this house maybe once a year. 5 people in one room who cannot lay a hand on one another. Junie laughs. It comes out of her all at once, and it is muffled behind the wet rag, and it goes on longer than it ought to. And everybody looks at her, and she says, It is like the comb. It is exactly like the comb. She sat on the floor in the sunlight this morning and pulled a comb through her hair and held it over the back of your hand, and it snapped. And she did it 3 times. And you told her to quit. And she laughed at you then, too. Your mother laughs. One breath of it, through the cloth. Your father says something short about it, and there is a smile somewhere in it. Then it is over. And that is the last laughing anybody does in this house for a long while. Junie goes to the south window in the front room. She goes because the sheet on that one has slipped off its nail at the corner, and there is a triangle of glass showing. And she stands there a second, and then says, "Quiet. Come here." Nobody comes. She says it again, louder, and says, "Papa, you get there first." You put your face down next to hers at that corner of glass and look out into the black, and there is not one thing out there. No yard, no barn, no shape at all. The lamp behind you makes a smear on the inside of the glass, and past that there is nothing. And you are about to tell her so. Then you see it, out where the south fence line runs, 40 yards off. There is a light on the wire. It is blue. It comes and goes. It runs along the top strand between 2 posts in a thin, unsteady line. Brightens, dies down, breaks, comes back, and it is not one light, but a whole series of them. Little pale blue flames sitting on the barbs, going out and lighting again. And it does not hold still for 1 second. You can follow it post to post to post. East, 3 posts. 5, 7. Out past where the fence goes over the rise. And it runs on into the dark further than you can see. And there is no end to it. The whole fence is burning without any fire on it. Junie asks if it is going to catch. Your father is behind you now with his hand on the window frame, and he says no. He watches it a while. Everybody does. Your mother comes and looks, then goes and gets Grandma Ross by the arm and brings her over. And the old woman looks out at that fence line for a long minute with her cloth held to her face. Then your father says the one true thing he knows about it. It is the dirt doing it, he says. It rubs, going by, mile after mile of it, and it builds up a charge, and the wire is the only thing out there to take it. He saw it in 1933 on the Cimarron Bridge, both rails going blue in broad daylight. That is why the telephone quit, he says. Then he says the rest. And this is the part that lands. It has got hold of the whole line, every mile of it, all the way to Halstead's and all the way south to Coble's. And every mile of that wire is sitting on those same fence posts. It will be in it as long as this blows. There is no calling anybody tonight. Junie asks how long that will be. Nobody answers her. And after a while, your mother pulls the sheet back over the nail and covers up the glass. And the blue goes out of the room. Your mother takes stock of the water sometime after the fence goes blue. And she does it the way she does everything, without announcing it first. She takes the lamp along the wall by the stove, where you set all those pails and jars this afternoon, and goes down the line, lifting the cover off each one and holding the light over it and putting the cover back. Here is what she finds. The 2 house buckets are open, topped, and they are gone. There is a skin on both of them. A fine, even brown film lying flat from rim to rim. And when she stirs the first one with the dipper, it does not sink and it does not break up. It rolls. It goes around in a sheet, the way cream turns in a churn, and then settles back down on top. And under it, the water has gone the color of weak coffee all the way to the bottom. The wash basin is the same. The dishpan is worse. The churn has a wooden lid that sits down inside the rim, and it is about half bad. Dirt in the top 3 inches and clear water under that, and she can dip out of the bottom if she is careful and does not stir it. The 2 syrup pails have snap lids, and they are fine. The stone jar has a plate on top of it with a flat iron sitting on the plate, because that is how she left it. And when she lifts the plate off the water, underneath is clean. The boiler on the back of the stove is closed and clean and hot, and the crock on the table has a plate weighted on top of it, and it holds about 2 gallons. And that is the good water in this house. She puts it together out loud once, so everybody hears the same numbers. 2 gallons in the crock, 1.5 gallons in the stone jar, 1 gallon between the syrup pails. Call it 2 in the bottom of the churn if nobody jostles it. 3 in the boiler. Hot. Everything else is dirt water. And dirt water is not nothing, because it will still wet a cloth. Then she says what it has to do. It has to go down 5 throats. It has to wet 5 face rags and keep wetting them, because a rag dries out in about an hour in this air, and a dry rag does nothing at all. And it has to do her mother, who is going to need more than her share. And everybody in this kitchen already knows it. Not one person in this room says a word about the well. The well is 60 steps out the kitchen door, with a hand pump on it, and there is more water down in it than this family could drink in a year. And it might as well be in Kansas. Your father does not offer to go. You do not offer to go. Your mother does not ask. The door is barred with a trunk shoved against it, and there is nobody in this house who thinks that door is opening before daylight. And the fact that nobody mentions it is the whole conversation. She settles it in about 4 seconds. The crock is drinking water, she says. Nothing else. Nobody dips out of it for any other reason, and nobody drinks more than the cup they are handed. The stone jar is her mother's. All of it. And it does not get touched by anybody else for anything. Boiler water goes for the rags. It is hot, and it will hold its warmth longer. And a warm cloth is easier on an old woman's chest than a cold one. When the boiler is gone, the syrup pails go for rags. The 2 house buckets, the dirt water, that is for the floor and the sills and anything else that needs wetting down. And there is plenty of it, and nobody is to worry about it. Then she says the last one. No washing. Nobody washes anything. Not hands. Not faces. Not dishes. Not until this is over. Junie says not even faces. Not even faces. Your mother says. Something goes across that girl's face for about a second, because Junie is 9, and she has had her face washed every night of her life, whether she wanted it or not. And it is one of the fixed things in the world, and it just went away. All right, your father says. That is his whole part in it. He has sat through the entire thing with his hands around a cup, and he says, all right, and he means it. And it is settled in this house from here on. This is what your mother has been doing for 4 years. And tonight is the night it shows. She has kept a plate on that crock since 1931. She has kept a flat iron on the plate since the spring of 33. When the plate blew off in a blow, and she lost a crock of water and had to haul more in the dark, Every closed vessel in this kitchen is closed, because she made a rule about it years ago and never once let it slide. And tonight, every one of those rules pays out. And she does not mention that either. She pours the first round, 5 cups. And they are not full cups. You drink yours, and it is the best thing you ever had, and it is gone in 4 swallows, and you would drink 4 more. And you do not ask. Junie holds hers and looks into it. She asks if she can have half now and half later. Your mother says yes. So the girl drinks half and sets the cup on the table next to the lamp and puts her hand flat over the top of it. And she keeps her hand there. Then your mother takes the boiler water and wets all 5 rags again. And the warm cloth going back over your face is the first comfortable thing that has happened since 5 o'clock. She does her mother's last and takes the longest with it. The cough changes sometime after that. You have been hearing your grandmother cough all winter and all spring, and everybody in this house knows that cough the way they know the sound of the screen door. It is quick. It is dry. It comes in a little run of 3 or 4, and then it is over, and she says something cross afterward, and goes on with what she was doing. This is not that. The first one comes up out of her chest instead of her throat, and it goes on longer than it should. And in the middle of it, there is a place where it stops. It just stops. A second and a half, where nothing is coming out of her, and nothing is going in either. And then it starts again. And the second half is worse than the first. And it runs until it has nothing left to work with. When it is done, she sits with her eyes shut and her hand up. The hand means, give me a minute. Everybody in this room understands the hand. Your mother goes to her. She takes the cloth out of the old woman's fist and carries it to the basin and wets it out and wrings it and brings it back and puts it in her hand. And she does all that before your grandmother has opened her eyes. And she does it every single time for the rest of the night. You notice the other thing about it on the 3rd or 4th one. Your mother takes that cloth away with it already folded over in her hand and gets it into the water fast. Faster than she needs to. And she never once holds it out where anybody can see the middle of it. She does not look at it herself either. Or if she does, it is on the way down into the basin, and it is over in half a second. The water in that basin has taken on a color. It is not the color of dirt. Nobody says anything about it. Not tonight and not later. They move her. Your father gets on one side, and you get on the other, and the 2 of you walk her from the doorway into the north bedroom and get her into the bed instead of the chair. Propped up high on everything soft in this house. Because she cannot lie flat, and she says so. Your mother builds it up behind her. Both pillows and a folded quilt and the good coat rolled, until she is sitting up more than she is lying down. And that helps some. The room is warmer than the kitchen, and it fills up fast with 5 people in it. Junie goes on the floor at the foot of the bed with a quilt. Your father brings in the lamp and turns it down low and sets it on the dresser. Your mother sits on the edge of the bed. You take the chair. That is where this family spends the rest of the night. All of them in one room. Which is what they were always going to do, and nobody had to say it. Somewhere in the 2nd hour, your grandmother reaches over and gets your wrist. Her hand is dry and light, and there is no strength in it at all. She pulls your arm over and turns it so your fingers are on the inside of her own wrist. And she says, count. You say, what? She takes the cloth down from her mouth. Count me, she says. It is easier if somebody else is doing it. So you count. You count the way she taught Junie this afternoon behind a closed door. In is one. Out is still one. You put your fingers on her wrist and watch her chest and count her breathing for a full minute by a clock you cannot see. And you have to guess at the minute. And you tell her what you got. 22. You say, that is not so bad. She says, you do it again a while later and get 22 again, and tell her. And she nods. The third time, you get 24. You tell her 22. She looks at you. Her eyes are open, and the lamp is behind you, and she looks straight up at you for a second or two. And she knows exactly what you just did. And she lets you have it. She pats your wrist twice with 2 fingers and closes her eyes and leaves your hand where it is. Boise City is 7 miles. That is the part that gets into you sitting there. It is not far. It is nothing. It is the drive you have made 100 times, sitting up in the truck bed with the wind in your face. 7 miles of straight road with 2 bends in it. Past the Pruitt turnoff and the school and the water tank. And there is a doctor at the end of it. And you know which house is his. And you know the color of his front door. You have ridden that road on a bicycle. You have walked pieces of it. Any afternoon of your life you could go get him. There is no road out there tonight. There is not a road, and there is not a section line, and there is not a fence to follow, and there is no such thing as a direction. Your father went out this afternoon to a barn he has walked to 20,000 times and had to lean on a cow to keep his line. 7 miles has been taken out of the world. It is not a distance anymore. It is a thing somebody made up. Here is the whole of what this family can do for her. Keep the cloth wet. Keep her sitting up. Keep the water coming out of the stone jar. And count. That is the list. There is nothing under it and nothing after it. It is a poor list, and it is the only one there is. And your mother works it all night, without once looking like she is doing something small. It turns out that sitting beside somebody and counting is a real job, and that a person can be good at it. Sometime later your grandmother starts talking. Low, with her eyes still shut, she says her husband cut the hay on the flat by the creek that first fall with a scythe, because there was no mower closer than Elkhart. She says it stood past his belt buckle and it took him 9 days. She says when the wind came across it in the evening, you could watch it come. The whole flat turning over silver and back to green, from one end to the other, like something running. Then, she says, and it made a sound. You wait for the rest of it, and there is no rest of it. She has gone under. Junie is asleep on the floor. Your father goes out to the kitchen once, and you hear him lift the receiver off the hook, and you hear him put it back. The sound comes on the west side of the house, and it is not the wind. Everybody hears it at once. A flat, hard bang, then a pause, then 2 of them close together, then nothing for a while. Then it comes again. Your father sits up. He has been in the chair by the dresser with his arms folded and his chin down, not asleep, and he comes up out of it and stands in the middle of the room with his head turned. It bangs again. Junie wakes and asks what it is, and your mother tells her to hush. 2 things it can be, and everybody in that room is going down the same list. 1 is the chicken house. It sits on the west side, and it has a sheet iron roof. And if a corner of that iron has come loose, it will lift and slam all night and take the whole roof with it before morning. And there are 11 hens under it. The other one is a person. That is the one nobody says. Ione Mabry is a mile and a half southeast in a house by herself, and the line has been dead since before dark, and she is 66 years old. And there is nobody on this earth who is going to come and check on her tonight. Because there is no such thing as coming and checking on anybody tonight, but there is a road, and she has walked it with a lantern before. It is the chicken house. Your father says, "You do not know that." Your mother says, "He says he knows it is not a person. Because a person out in that would not be knocking on the west wall. A person would be at the door." Then he goes and gets the rope off the kitchen table. "You are already up." He tells you to sit down, and you tell him no. And it is the first time in your life you have said that word to him flat like that. He stops with the rope in his hands and looks at you. You say it is your arms or his, and his are better in the house holding the line. He does not like it. You can watch the whole thing go across his face. Then he hands you the end of the rope. Your mother ties it. 2 turns around your waist over your shirt, and a knot she learned from her father who ran cattle. And she pulls it down snug, and then puts her hand flat on the knot and leaves it there a second. She wets your face rag in the last of the boiler water and ties it high over your nose. And then she takes the spare and ties it over the top of the first one, so there are 2 layers. And she pulls your hat down hard. Do not let go of it, she says. She says it once, and she does not say anything else. Your father takes the other end and sits down on the floor with his back against the kitchen wall and his boots braced against the legs of the table. And he takes 3 wraps around his forearm and grips it. "Go," he says. Your mother pulls the trunk back from the door. You get the bar up and the latch and you push, and the wind takes the door out of your hand and slams it flat against the wall of the house. And the kitchen goes. Everything in that room that is not tied down goes across it. The lamp gutters and your mother gets both hands around the chimney. Paper comes off the wall. The wet sheet over the kitchen window stands straight out into the room like a sail. And the dirt comes through the doorway in a solid pour, not a gust. A stream of it, a yard wide, going right through the middle of the house. You get out, and they get the door shut behind you, and then you are in it. There is nothing here. That is the part nobody can tell you. It is not dark like night. Night has a sky in it, and a horizon somewhere, and a difference between up and down. This has none of that. There is no ground under you that you can see, and no house behind you, and no air. And the first thing that gets you is that you cannot tell whether your eyes are open. You blink to check. There is no difference. You put a hand up in front of your face and touch your own hat brim to prove your arm is where you think it is. The wind is out of the north, so you have got that much. The dirt hits the exposed part of your face like sand off a shovel, and you turn your head out of it, and you cannot look up at all. Both rags are pulled flat against your mouth by your own breathing, and they are already stiffening at the edges. Every breath tastes like the inside of a plowed field. You go along the wall with your left hand on the boards. That works fine for the length of the house, and you get to the corner and around it onto the west side. And the wind comes at you different there, off the corner, in a hard spinning way that shoves you sideways 2 steps and puts you down on 1 knee. The rope pulls once. That is your father asking. You pull back twice. Which is the answer? And you get up. The chicken house is 20 feet off the west wall. 20 feet. You have crossed that gap 1,000 times with a pail of feed in one hand and never once thought about it. And now you have to let go of the house to do it. Letting go of the house is the worst thing you have ever done. You take 4 steps into nothing with both hands out in front of you and you are gone. There is no house behind you and no chicken house in front of you, and there is no north or south. And you take a 5th step, and there is nothing to put your hand on. And for about 2 seconds, the whole of you turns over. Then the rope goes tight across your back, and you remember what you are wearing. You get a hand back on it, and it is right there, running out behind you. And it is the only true thing in the world. You keep going, and your knee hits the chicken house. You get your hands on it, and go along it, and up, and the corner of the sheet iron is loose at the north end, curled back about 1.5 feet, lifting and slamming, and every time it comes up, you can feel the whole roof breathe with it. There is no fixing it, no hammer, no nail, no seeing what you are doing. You go down on your knees and feel around at the base of the wall, and there are rocks there, because there are always rocks there, the ones that come up out of the field every year and get thrown against the buildings. You find one about the size of your 2 fists and get it up on the roof edge and hold it on the loose corner with your whole weight until the wind gives you a second. Then drag it out onto the flap and let it down. The banging stops under your hands, through the boards. You can hear the hens. Not loud. They are jammed in a heap in the corner, making a low continuous noise. All of them together, that you have never heard a chicken make. You put your hand flat on the wall of that little building for a second. Then you turn around and go back on the rope. Hand over hand, both fists, not walking so much as hauling yourself along it. And about 2/3 of the way, it goes slack in your hands, and your heart drops straight out of you before you work out that it went slack because your father is taking in line, because he can feel you coming. Your hand hits the corner of the house, then the door, and it opens before you get to the latch. And hands come out and get you by the shirt and pull you through, and the door goes shut and the bar drops. You stand in the middle of the kitchen and you cannot stop coughing. It goes on a while. Your mother pulls the 2 rags down off your face and they come away brown and stiff across the front like a piece of canvas. Your face is black. She takes the basin. Then she takes the good water, the crock water, the drinking water, the 2 gallons she said this afternoon, that not one person in this house was to touch for anything but their throat. She pours out about a cup of it. She wets a clean rag and takes your chin in her hand and turns your face up under the lamp and washes it. Your forehead, your eyes, one and then the other, your nose and around your mouth where the cloth sat, the line of your jaw. She goes around twice and rinses the rag, and the water in that basin goes black. Nobody says a word about the water. Your father has the rope. He is standing at the end of the table, coiling it. And he gets 3 loops onto his arm and stops. He stands there with his hand still on it and his head down, and he does not move. It is not long. It is about the time it takes to draw 2 breaths. His shoulders come up and stay up, and one of his hands closes on that rope, hard enough that you can see it from where you are standing. Then he finishes the coil and hangs it over the back of the chair and says he is going to go sit with her. He goes into the bedroom. Your mother watches him go, and then goes back to your face and does not say anything. And you understand that you are the only other person in this house who saw it, and that you are not going to mention it either. Junie is standing in the bedroom door with her quilt around her, watching the whole thing. Nobody in this family will say Ione Mabry's name again until tomorrow evening. Nothing else happens tonight. The banging is stopped. The rope is on the chair. Everybody is back in the north bedroom with the door shut and the wet sheet over it. And the wind goes on doing what it has done since 20 minutes past 5. What happens now is slower than that. Your father goes out to the kitchen sometime after and tries the door. He is not going anywhere. He does it the way a man checks a gate he already knows is latched. He lifts the bar and puts his hand against the door and pushes. And it moves about 2 inches and stops. He pushes harder, and it does not go any further. He looks at it a second, then puts the bar back down and comes back into the bedroom and sits. And he does not say anything to anybody about it. And you saw the whole thing from the doorway. You go out and do it yourself 20 minutes later. 2 inches. There is something out there against the bottom of it, and there is enough of it that a man's shoulder does not move it. The north window is the other one. It has gone from black to something else. Black glass is still glass, and it gives back the lamp a little, and there is a shine on it. That window has stopped shining. It has gone flat and dull to the edges of the sash. And when Junie holds the lamp up to it, there is no reflection anywhere in it at all. It is not dark on the other side of that glass. It is packed. Your mother turns the wick down. There is about half a bowl of kerosene in that lamp and a gallon can out in the kitchen, and that is everything there is. And nobody in this house knows what time it is or how much longer this goes on. She brings it down until the flame is a little curl of yellow no taller than a fingernail. The circle of light pulls in to about the size of the tabletop. Past the edge of it, there is a brown dark where you can still make out a shape if it moves. And past that, there is nothing. And the corners of the room are gone. Everybody moves in closer without being told. Then Junie starts crying. It comes out of nowhere. She is sitting on the floor with her quilt, and she has been quiet for an hour. And she says she wants her cup. Her cup is on the kitchen table where she left it with her hand over the top of it, and the half of water in it is long since ruined. And everybody in this room knows that. Your mother tells her she can have a fresh cup right now. Junie says she does not want a fresh cup. She wants her cup, the one she saved. And she saved it. And she covered it up like she was supposed to. And now it is out there in the kitchen in the dark, and it has dirt in it. She is not crying about the water. She is crying the way a 9-year-old cries at midnight. Hard and wet and completely, with her face in the quilt, over the one thing in this house that she personally did right. Nobody tries to talk her out of it. Your father does not tell her to hush. Your mother does not explain anything to her. Grandma Ross puts a hand down off the edge of the bed, and Junie leans her head against it. And she cries herself out over that cup for about 4 minutes, while the wind works on the north wall. Then she stops, and she hiccups twice, and she says, "All right." Your mother pours her a fresh cup, and she drinks half of it, and puts her hand over the top of it, and sets it on the floor beside her. The floor is the last thing. There is a place near the door where the dust is coming in under the sill and running out across the boards. And it makes a shape, a long, thin fan, wide at the door, and narrowing to a point about 3 feet into the room, laid down in fine ridges like the sand at the bottom of a creek. Junie sweeps it up with her hand. She does it flat-palmed, pushing it back toward the door in a pile, and she gets all of it. And the boards under it are clean, and you can see the grain in them. Then she sits back on her heels and watches. It starts again immediately. A thin tongue of it comes in under the door and reaches out along the floor, and it does not blow around the room. It lays itself down in the same place it was before and builds up in the same ridges going the same direction. And inside of a minute, it has the same shape it had when she swept it. And inside of 5, it is bigger. She sweeps it again. It comes back. She does it 4 times, and then she quits and sits with her chin on her knees, watching it come in. The way she would watch water run. "Come up here," your mother says. And Junie gets up on the bed, under the quilt, with her grandmother's feet. And your mother pulls the quilt over both of them, and there it is. The kitchen door will not open. The north window is packed to the top of the sash. There is a drift of the Oklahoma Panhandle standing against the outside of this house deep enough to hold a door shut. And it is still coming. And it will be coming all night. In the morning, somebody's going to have to dig out. From the inside, nobody says it. Your father is looking at the floor by the door, and your mother is looking at the window. And Junie has her eyes shut, and your grandmother is awake and looking at the ceiling. And every one of them has arrived at the same sentence at about the same time, and not one of them opens their mouth. The wick burns down small and yellow on the dresser. There is a stretch in the middle of that night that has no shape to it. And this is the part of it. 5 people in one room. Nobody has taken off a boot. Your father is in the chair with his coat over his knees. Your mother is on the edge of the bed, on the side nearest her own mother. And she has been there so long that when she finally shifts her weight, the whole frame speaks. Junie is under the quilt at the foot of it, with her knees up. You are on the floor with your back against the wall, and your hat beside you. The lamp is a curl of yellow on the dresser about the size of a thumbnail. Everybody's face is tied up. If you could see this room from outside it, that is what you would notice first. 5 people sitting in the dark, in their own house, with wet cloths across their mouths. And nobody talking. Because talking through a wet cloth is work. And because there is nothing to say, the rags dry out in about an hour. That is how time gets measured now. Nobody looks at the clock. What happens is that your mother gets up off the bed and goes around the room and collects 5 cloths and takes them to the basin and wets them out and wrings them and brings them back. And everybody unties and reties. And then she sits back down. That is 1. Then a long while goes by, and she gets up and does it again. That is 2. You count them for a while and lose track somewhere around 6 or 7. And after that, the weddings go on happening, and you stop knowing how many there have been. You learn what a rag feels like at every stage of its hour. Right after it comes back, it is warm and heavy, and it lies on your face, and the air comes through it easy. And that is the best 20 minutes in the whole rotation. Then it cools. Then it stiffens at the outside edges, while the middle is still damp and the air starts having to work. Then the middle goes, and the whole thing sits on your mouth like a piece of board. And by then, you are pulling your breath hard enough that it sucks in against your lips every time. That is when your mother gets up. She never once has to be told. Sometime in there, your father tries the radio. It sits on the shelf in the front room, a Philco, run off a 6-volt battery, because there is no line out here and never has been. And that battery is the same one that has to start the truck. If it ever comes to that, everybody knows the arithmetic on it. He goes out, and you hear him turn it on, and you hear the tubes come up. There is nothing on it, not silence. Which would be one thing? There is a sound, a steady, wide, crackling rush that fills the whole dial from one end to the other. and he walks it slowly across. And it is the same everywhere. And once or twice, something rises up in the middle of it that might be a voice, and might be a piano, and might be nothing at all. And it goes back under before it turns into anything. He gives it about 30 seconds. Then he shuts it off and comes back and sits down and says, "The air is full." Nobody asks him for more than that. The clock is still going. You can hear it if you go looking for it. Out on the shelf by the kitchen door, ticking away in the dark with nobody near it. It has kept time all night. Straight through the wall coming, and the fence burning, and the rope and everything else. On a night when the time is no use to any living soul. Nobody in this house has said a time out loud since 20 minutes past 5. There is a reason. If somebody said 4 in the morning, that would be a fine thing to know. Because 4 in the morning has an end on it. If somebody looked at that clock and said 4 in the afternoon, then this is not night at all. Then the sun has been up for hours, and it is up right now. And it cannot get down to where this house is. So nobody goes and looks. And everybody knows that nobody is going. And 5 people make that decision without one word. What you have instead is the wind. It comes in cycles. That is the thing you work out lying there. And working it out takes you a long time, and there is nothing else to do with your mind. It builds for a stretch, comes up hard on the north wall, and gets into the eaves and makes the whole house lean into it. And it holds there. And then it lets down, never to nothing. It never goes to nothing. It lets down to a level shove and stays there a while. And then it starts building again. 4 minutes. Near enough. You have no watch, and you cannot see the clock. So you get it by counting your own breath. 60, and start over. The way your grandmother taught your sister behind a closed door about 100 years ago this afternoon. Once you have the cycle, you can hear it coming. You lie there, and you know, 30 seconds out, that the next hard one is on its way. And you can feel yourself getting ready for it before it arrives. Your shoulders coming up, your jaw setting. Then it hits, and the house takes it, and the north wall gives that low groan it gives, and then it lets down, and your shoulders come down, and you have got 4 minutes. Build, hold, let down. 4 minutes. Do it again. The other rhythm is your grandmother. She coughs on no schedule at all. It comes when it comes, and every single time it does, the room wakes up. You can hear it happen. Junie's breathing breaks. Your father's boot moves on the floor. Your mother is already up, before the cough is finished, because she has learned to come awake at the front end of it now, instead of the back. Then it is done, and the old woman gets her breath back in 3 or 4 long pulls. And your mother says something to her too quiet to make out. And your grandmother says something back that is shorter. And then the room lies there. Nobody goes back down right away. 5 people lie in the dark, being awake together and not saying anything. And there is about a minute of that. And then one at a time, they let go again. And the house goes back to the wind. That happens 11 or 12 times. Somewhere in the middle of that night, your mouth stops working right. It is not thirst exactly, because you have had your cup, and you will get another one. Everything in your mouth has gone rough. Your tongue against the roof of your mouth feels like 2 pieces of dry leather. And there is grit worked in behind your bottom teeth that you cannot get at with your tongue and cannot spit out. And every time you swallow, your throat catches partway down, And you have to do it twice. Your eyes are worse. There is dirt in both of them, up under the lids where you cannot reach. And it has been there since the chicken house. And every time you blink it drags. Your eyes have been running for hours, and running does not help. And there are 2 clean tracks down through the dirt on your face that your mother's rag did not get. Junie says one thing all night. She says, from under the quilt, that she can hear it on the roof. Your mother says yes. That is the whole conversation, but you go looking for it after she says it. And it is there, under the wind, under the hum. If you lie perfectly still and give it your whole attention, there is a fine dry whisper coming down on the shingles over your head. It is the sound of the smallest possible thing landing. Times 10 million. It does not stop. And here is the part you will never be able to explain to anybody afterward. You sleep. Not for long, and not well. It comes on you in pieces. You are lying there working out the wind cycle, and you have got about 30 seconds before the next hard one. And then the hard one is already going by, and you do not remember it starting. You come up out of that, and everything is exactly where it was. The lamp, the wall, the wet cloth on your mouth. And you have no idea whether you lost 2 minutes or 40. Then it happens again. Then it happens again. And this time, when you come up, your mother is going around with the basin, and you did not hear her get up. Your body gives out on you, and takes what it can get, and it does not consult you about it. It does not wait for things to be all right. It does not wait for the wind to quit, or the air to clear, or for anybody to say a word about anybody being safe. It quits asking for those things somewhere in the middle of the night and puts you down where you are lying, in your clothes, in your boots, with dirt in your teeth and a stiff rag across your face, and the whole panhandle coming in through the roof, down at the foot of the bed. Junie is under. Your father's head has gone forward in the chair. Your grandmother is awake, propped up on everything soft in the house, and she stays awake. And your mother sits on the edge of the bed beside her, in the dark, with her hand somewhere near her mother's arm. And those two are the last ones going. The blanket over you has weight in it that it did not have this morning. The rag is gone dry along the edge, and you can feel where it stiffened. And there is grit between your back teeth, and you roll it without meaning to. And you cannot tell if it is still night out there. Lie still. This is the part that goes on the longest. What wakes the house is the wind stopping. It does not stop all at once. It comes down the way it came up, in stages. And the first thing that happens is that a hard one goes through, and there is no next one behind it. 4 minutes go by. Nothing builds. Then 6. You come awake into that hole and lie there waiting for it, and it does not come. Then you work out that everybody else in the room is awake too, and has been for a while, and that nobody has said anything, and that the whole house is lying there listening to the same nothing. Hear that? Your father says. The hum is still going. It has thinned. It has gone from something in the boards and in your teeth to something up in the air outside. Further off, more like a sound and less like a condition. Under it there is a light, steady rattle of grit on the north glass. And that is all. Nobody moves for a while. Then the light starts. And the light is wrong. The north window goes from flat black to a dark gray with no line where it changes. and it takes a long time doing it. And the gray keeps getting less dark until you can make out the shape of the sash. Then the gray takes on a color. It comes up brown, and even flat brown across the whole pane, and the room fills with it. And there is not one line of light anywhere in it, and nothing casts a shadow. That is what morning is. Your mother turns the lamp out. She does it early, before there is really enough to see by, because there is a gallon of kerosene in this house, and no telling, everybody sits up. Your grandmother is awake. That is the first fact of the morning, and everybody in the room gets to it in their own way, and nobody says it out loud. She is propped where they left her, and her eyes are open, and she is looking at the ceiling, and her chest is going. You go over and put 2 fingers on her wrist without being asked. She lets you. 18. You tell her. Better, she says. Junie comes out from under the quilt, and the first thing she does is put her hand up on her own face and take the rag off. And everybody's face under those rags has a clean shape on it, and the rest is filthy. And Junie looks around the room at the 4 other people in it and laughs. She laughs until she coughs. The whole family is a set of raccoons in reverse. Your father is white from the eyebrows down where the cloth sat and black around his eyes. Your mother's hair has gone gray at the front. And it is not gray hair. The dust is over everything in that bedroom. It lies on the dresser in a smooth, even coat that takes a fingerprint. It is ridged along the windowsill. It is on top of the quilt thick enough that when Junie throws it back there is a small brown avalanche off the fold of it onto the floor. It is on the water glass. It is inside the water glass. It is in the part of your mother's hair, and in the creases of your father's knuckles, and in both corners of everybody's eyes. Your father goes to the kitchen door. The rest of you come out and stand in the kitchen and watch him do it. And the kitchen is worse than the bedroom because of the 2 windows on that side. He lifts the bar. He pulls the trunk back out of the way. He puts his shoulder into the door. It goes 2 inches and stops dead. He tries again with his boot braced. Nothing. He backs off and hits it once with his shoulder. A real one. And it moves maybe a ½ inch more and comes back. The front, your mother says. He goes through and tries the front door, and that one is worse. It does not move at all. So he comes back to the kitchen and stands there looking at the 2-inch gap along the bottom. Get the coal shovel, he says. That is the morning. The coal shovel is the little flat one that lives by the stove. And there is a hoe in the corner behind the wood box. And that is what this family has got inside the house. Your father lies down on the kitchen floor on his side. He gets the shovel through the gap and works it out and turns it and pulls, and about a quart of dirt comes back through onto the kitchen floor. Bucket, he says. You bring the dishpan. That is how it goes for the next 20 minutes. Your father on the floor, in the gap working the shovel out and back. You kneeling beside him, taking each load into the pan and dumping it in the corner. Your mother pushing the door a little, every so often, to see if it will give. Junie holds the pan when your arms get tired. The drift out there is fine as flour, and it slumps back into the hole as fast as he can pull it. And there is a stretch of about 10 minutes where the pile in the corner keeps getting bigger, and the door does not move at all. Then it gives 4 inches, then 8. Then it goes far enough for a man to get his arm and his shoulder through. And your father says that will do it. And he gets up and puts his shoulder into it and walks it open through the last of it, dragging a wedge of dirt across the kitchen floor as it comes. The doorway is a hole with light coming through it. They dumped 4 dishpans of the Oklahoma Panhandle onto the kitchen floor to get that door open. And nobody in this house even looks at the pile, because there is dirt an inch deep on that floor already, and there is nowhere to put anything, and there is not going to be for a long time. Your father stands in the open doorway with the brown light on him. He does not go out. He stands there and looks, and he does not say a word. And he stands there long enough that your mother comes up behind him and puts her hand on his back to see over his shoulder. You go out past him and stand in the yard. The first thing is the sun. It is up, and a good way up, off to the east and south. And you can look straight into it without squinting and without your eyes watering. It is a flat pale disk about the color of an old nickel, with no glare on it anywhere. And it has an edge you could trace with a pencil. There is no blue in that sky. It is brown from the ground to the top of it, and the sun sits in the middle of it like something floating in dishwater. The second thing is that nothing has an edge. Everything in this yard is rounded off. The pump, the chopping block, the wash pot, the step, dirt is banked against the north side of every one of them in a smooth curve and drawn out into a long tail on the south side. And it is all the same color. So the whole place looks like it was poured instead of built. The third thing takes you a second. The path is gone, not covered. Gone. There is a worn track that runs from the kitchen, step out to the pump, and over to the barn, and out to the road. And it has been there since before you were born, packed hard and lower than the ground on either side. And you have never in your life had to look for it. It is not there. There is one continuous surface across this whole yard, smooth and unmarked, and you put your foot down onto it, and you cannot tell where the path was, and you are not sure you are standing on it. The road is worse. You walk out that way about 30 steps and stop, because there is no reason to keep going. The section road runs east and west along the north side of this quarter with a bar ditch on both sides, and the whole of it, road and both ditches, is one flat, unbroken sweep from your fence line across to the other side. The ditches are level with the road. The road is level with the field. There is no way to tell, by looking, where a man is supposed to drive. Then you look at the fence. Along the north line, the drift that has been building since February is not a drift anymore. It is the ground. It has come up to within a hand's width of the top wire, and it runs the whole quarter mile, smooth on top, and in the low place by the corner, it has gone over the top wire entirely and out into the field on the other side. The posts are what get you. They are 5-foot posts. They have been 5-foot posts your whole life, and your father set half of them, and your grandfather set the rest. And this morning they are a row of stubs coming up out of that drift about 8 inches, running away west, getting smaller, until 200 yards out, they are gone, and there is nothing marking that line at all. Junie comes out with a bucket. She goes to the chicken house because that is her job in the morning, and nobody told her not to. And you go with her. And the door is drifted shut, and the two of you dig it out with your hands. Inside it is dim and full of hanging dust, and the smell is bad. The hens are in the corner in a heap where they went last night, and they have not moved out of it. There is a drift in there, too, coming in through the crack under the north eave, laid across the floor in a long fan. Junie counts. She counts out loud. the way she always does, and gets to 7, and stops, and goes back, and starts over, and gets to 7 again. 7? She says. There are 11 hens on this place. There were 11 yesterday morning, and she had 11 eggs to show for them. And she laid them out on the kitchen table in a row and made everybody look. The other 4 are in the corner, under the live ones, with dirt packed in around their heads. She does not cry about it. She stands there holding the empty bucket and counts them one more time to make sure. And then she says 7 again and goes to get the feed pan. Your father is at the barn. He gets that door open and goes down the row, and the mules are standing there gray from ears to tail, and both of them come to the front of the stall for him. There is dust an inch deep along the top of every board in that building and hanging in the air thick enough to see the shape of the light coming in the door. The heifer is standing in her box. She is fine. She is filthy. And her water is a bucket of mud. And she is fine. Your father runs a hand down her side and along her belly and stands there a second. And then he says, she is all right. And it is the only good news anybody gets this morning. He takes the syrup bucket off the nail and shakes it at her out of habit. And there is nothing in it. And she comes to him anyway. The cattle in the west lot are the worst thing to look at. There are 9 of them, and they are all the same color now, top to bottom, standing in the lee of the shed with their heads down. Their eyes are running, and there are streaks worn down through the dirt on their faces. There is dirt caked in their nostrils and around their mouths, and packed into the hair along their backs. And when your father walks up to the nearest one and slaps her flank, a cloud comes off her. They will not eat, and they will not drink. Not yet. He breaks the crust off the top of the stock tank and shovels the top out of it. And they still will not come. And he stands there and lets them be. Then you look back at the house. There is a drift standing against the north side of it, as high as your belt buckle. It comes up smooth off the ground and lies against the boards and runs the whole length of the wall. And it goes on past the corner and drops off in a long tail. The north window is buried to the top of the lower sash. That is what was holding the door. Your mother brings Grandma Ross out onto the porch. It takes both of them, and it takes a while. She has the quilt around her shoulders, and she comes out with one hand on the door frame and one on her daughter's arm. And your mother gets her into the cane chair where she sat yesterday morning with her chin up in the clean sun. She sits there. She does not say anything at all for a long time. She looks at the yard and the road and the smooth place where the path was, and she takes it all the way around. And then she stops. She is looking at the corner post. It is the one at the northwest corner where the fence turns. A cedar post that came here in a wagon, and her husband sank it in the fall of 1897 with a spud bar and a sledge, because the sod would not take an auger, and there was not an auger in 12 miles anyway. It took him most of a morning. He wore his shirt out at both shoulders on that one post. It is a 5-foot post, and there is a hand's width of it showing. She looks at it a while. Then she pulls the quilt up on her shoulder and turns her face away from it and coughs into the cloth. And when she is done, she says, "Well, that is all," she says. Your father comes back across the yard from the barn with the shovel over his shoulder and stops at the porch step and looks out at the field. 60 acres of it, or what there is of it, going away flat and gray to the section line, with a low ripple running north and south across the whole thing. You cannot see one dead wheat stem out there. Every one of them is under. He looks at it about a minute. I better get at it, he says. And he goes around the house to the north side and starts digging the drift away from the wall. Because if it sits against those boards through a wet spell, it will rot them out. And there is nothing else on this place he can do anything about today. You go get the other shovel. Monday. The air is still full, but you can see the barn from the house and you can see the road. And by afternoon, there is a piece of sky in the north that is almost blue. Everybody works. That is all Monday is. Your mother has the house, and she starts at the far end of the front room with a scoop shovel, an actual shovel, on her own floor, and works toward the door. She fills the dishpan 11 times. Then she goes over it again with a broom, and again with a wet rag. And at the end of the day, that floor is still brown, and everybody in this house knows it will be brown in June. You and your father dig out the north wall and the doors and the path to the barn. In the middle of the afternoon, your mother comes out on the step and says her mother has been asleep for 4 hours and has not coughed once. And then she goes back inside. And that is how you find out. By evening, your father brings the battery in and hooks the radio back up. He does it while your mother is getting supper, and there is no ceremony about it. He turns it on and the tube's warm, and there is a station. That is the thing that stops everybody. There is a station, a clear one, out of Amarillo, coming in strong, and there is a man playing a piano on it. Junie puts her hands over her mouth. Everybody stands there in the kitchen and listens to a man play a piano for about a minute and a half, and nobody says a word. And Grandma Ross has her eyes closed in her chair. Then the piano stops, and a fellow reads the news. He reads about wheat. He reads something about Washington that nobody in this kitchen follows. Then he reads about Sunday. And he reads a piece off the wire from a newspaper man who was out in the Panhandle when it hit, over at Guyman. And this fellow put it in his story, and now the Amarillo station is reading it out. He calls it the Dust Bowl of the continent. Junie looks up from the table and asks what that means. Nobody answers her. Your mother is at the trunk with a rag. She has dragged it out from against the kitchen door where it has sat since Sunday afternoon, and she is going over the top of it. And she does not look up, and she does not stop. It is a flat-topped wooden trunk with a rope handle on each end. And her name was written on the inside of the lid in her own mother's hand before it was ever your father's house. She gets the top clean, then the sides, then she opens it and takes out what is in it, the quilts and the papers. And she shakes each quilt out the door and folds it and puts it back. Your father turns the radio off partway through the market report. You go into the front room. The seed catalog is on the shelf where it has been since October with a coat of dirt on the top edge like everything else. You take it down and open it 2/3 of the way back into the sorghum pages. And the map is there, folded into eighths. You take it out. You do not unfold it. You have got it by heart anyway. Boise City to Dalhart. Dalhart, west on the 66. Tucumcari and Albuquerque and Gallup and Flagstaff and Needles, and the long yellow line across the bottom of California to Bakersfield. You carry it into the kitchen. Your mother is squared away in front of the open trunk on her knees with the quilts going back in. And she does not look up when you come over. And she does not say anything. You put the map in. You set it down flat on top of the folded quilts, right in the middle, and you stand there a second, and then you step back. She puts the lid down. Then she gets up and takes the rag to the sink, and that is the whole of it. Not one word passes between you about it. Then or later, Your father is at the kitchen window with his back to the room, looking out at the field, and he does not turn around. And there is no telling on this earth whether he saw it or not. The trunk stays by the door, not against it, beside it, on the right-hand side, where a person going out would have to step around it. And nobody moves it back into the bedroom that night. And nobody moves it the next day either. Nobody in this house says one word about California. The note is still up on the shelf by the clock with 5 weeks of dust on it, and it is still coming due on the 15th of July. And there are 3 months between now and then. And your father is right that a rain in May changes every figure on that table. It is April. Anything can happen in 3 months. By evening, the dust had begun slipping under the door again. Your mother lays a rolled rag along the bottom of it before she puts supper on. And then the telephone rings. The whole house comes up out of its chairs. Nobody in this kitchen has heard those bells since 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon, and the sound of them goes through every person in the room. 4 short rings. Junie hollers it out before anybody else can. Mrs. Mabry. She is alive. She is 1.5 miles southeast in that little house by herself. And the line is up, and she is turning her own crank. And Junie is halfway across the kitchen with your father a step behind her. You get the receiver off the hook, and then you all stand there and listen to that line come alive. It is not only her. Somebody down at the Coble place picks up and you hear it. Somebody else after that. Once Mrs. Mabry has said her piece and hung up, the bells go again almost immediately. And it is 1 long and 3 short. And that is Cal Pruitt, 4 miles north. And he is calling somebody else. And everybody is listening. Then 3 long for Coble. Then a pattern you do not know that belongs to somebody further up the line than you have ever met. They go on all evening. Every ring is a house. Every house is a family standing in their own kitchen, at their own wall box with their own dust on the floor, cranking out their own number to say the same thing. Then the bells go again. And this one is yours. 2 long and a short. Your mother stops with the spoon in her hand. Your father looks over. Junie is up on her toes. You get up out of the chair and go to the wall to tell them.